right, guys, we're about to start. It's my distinct honor to have Hany Rambod on my couch here. I'm going to debrief him and find out what's going on in that big head of his, and we're going to hopefully get some cool information. Now, Hany, right off the bat, we're going to talk a lot about contest prep. We're going to talk about some supplements, but, you know, I got to get your feedback because no one's ever really heard you really comment on the Mr. Olympia that just passed. Obviously, you've worked with Phil Heath since almost the inception of his career. He won 7 Olympias under you. Talk to me a little bit about what went on this year and what your take was on the outcome of the Mr. Olympia contest.
Well, from the get-go, it was difficult to start the prep because he had gone through a procedure for his hernia surgery. So from the get-go, it was a little bit of shortened prep. You know, we had Jeremy with a torn pec. I had, they both came off of injuries, and with Phil, same thing. It was a shortened prep.
But before I even get to that, were you encouraging these guys to do the Olympia, or did you maybe suggest like Jeremy maybe take a year off? I mean, were you all in on this, or what was
so it was a little bit difficult because Jeremy, originally we were thinking after he tore his pec that we were going to take a year off.
Right.
But at the same time, his body started changing so quickly, and he really wanted it to be his last Olympia. So with his last Olympia, he really says, I think I can get back on stage.
Right.
And it was crammed, but for a person who prepped in 11 weeks, he looked amazing.
Right.
I don't know anybody else who's torn a pec, who's gotten back on stage at the same season.
Maybe Kevin Leroney, that's about it.
Yeah, but I don't even know if he got back on the same season.
I think it was maybe the following year.
Yeah, I think it was the following year. So he tore it, then literally went back on stage the same season. And I believe with Kevin, he took a year off and then he came back. If I, could be mistaken, but I think he actually had an extra year.
Yeah, I think it might have been the same calendar year because it was pretty amazing his comeback too. But Kevin was a genetic freak, as we all know. So what about Phil? What was your take on Phil? You thought would be fine this year?
Yeah, I think Phil was going to be fine this year, and I feel that Phil is, his strengths, his balance. He's got so many good body parts and whatnot. So, when he was going into the 2018 season, it was one of those things that we did know that there was going to be some issues because of the fact that he had a long time that he couldn't train.
Right.
But at the same time, there was no doubt that he couldn't win the show.
Right. Now, what was your take on the outcome of the show? When you saw him at prejudging, did you think he was going to have a problem, or did you think he had won the...
No, personally, again, I'm biased, so it's always hard.
Of course.
So that's why I don't really talk much because at the same time, I'm the coach. I'm going to want to, think that my guy should win.
Right.
So at the end of the day, after prejudging, did I think that the certain things could have been better? I thought his tan covered up a lot of his definition that could have been better, but could he have been a little bit harder? Could he have been? Absolutely, because you're always chasing perfection. But do I think that he had a complete package enough to win? Yeah, after prejudging, I thought so.
Now, obviously, Phil, on my show, I said he was going to take a year off. Will we see him back for 2020?
I think it's yet to be decided. It's one of those things where he's rehabbing. He's trying to decide what he wants to do, with his future. And right now, he had to go back, do another procedure. This year, he had one last year. This one was even, more time-consuming in terms of the operating table. So it's something that he's got to decide whether or not he wants to do.
What exactly did they have to do this time around?
This time around, there was just more damage that was done that they had to fix. The tears were larger. They had to bring in his midsection and actually his abdominal wall had separated. So they had to bring that tighten back up. But so all the things that they had done before, he had retorn. Yeah. And then they basically had to do more of the reconstructive surgery.
Is that a repair that could actually remain intact with the kind of lifting that a professional bodybuilder will do?
I'm sorry?
When you fix an abdominal wall like that, they're probably not thinking, the doctors, that the guy's going to go back and is going to squat 5 plates on each side. Is this an injury that could be repaired and it can stay repaired?
That's what we thought the first time, and it didn't.
I know.
So,
yeah, right.
So it didn't the first time. So this time, hopefully, with all the doctor going in and doing extra work, it should. But again, you just never know, depending on what the outcome is.
As his coach, obviously, Phil's got to make the ultimate decision. Would you like to see him come back for 2020?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's a double-edged sword because you want somebody to come back that wants to come back and not feel like they have to come back.
Right.
You got to have that want. It's kind of like the whole, rocky story. You got to want it. You got to really want it. So if it's something that he decides he really wants to do, we all know a 100% Phil Heath is very, very hard to beat.
Very dangerous, yeah. All right, let's talk about contest prep in general. A lot of people out there, might be looking for coaches. And what do you recommend? I mean, without us plugging ourselves here, what do you recommend?
I'm not really working with anybody that much anymore.
Oh, you're not?
No, that's one of the things that people keep asking me.
I didn't know that.
No.
So you basically stopped working with a lot of people?
A lot of people.
Why is that?
Because of Evogen. Because of Evogen.
Are you too busy?
Yes, very busy. I mean, we launched Evogen Dubai here yesterday.
Okay.
So we launched in Kuwait a couple years ago. We launched Philippines.
Is it tough for you to give up the contest prep? Because I know you like that.
Really is tough.
You love that. I know that's your bread and butter.
Absolutely, it's very, very difficult. I mean, Big Ramy had a big discussion about after the Olympia about whether or not we work together.
Yeah, I know you were looking to. I thought maybe you were going to work with him. It looked like at one point.
A lot of people. It's again speculation.
Yes,
we're thinking that I was going to work with him, but I knew that I was going to work on two major things this year. Number one, I went from 20 SKUs in a year and a half to 66 SKUs with Evogen. So
why would you do that?
Why? Because honestly, growth.
It's a lot.
Growth.
Yeah.
We've doubled. The size of the company's doubled in the last year and a half.
Right.
And what I want to do is I really want to focus. I've never been a contest prep person to work with a lot of people. You know that.
No, you always had a limited group.
Very limited group of people that I work with, a handful of people. I mean, when it came to men's physique, I only worked with one person, Jeremy.
Right.
And that was because he was one of my Evogen athletes. So it really also... who I work with also largely depends on who's a part of my brand. So if somebody is a part of a different brand, does it make sense for me to prep them to make them bigger and better? Sometimes, with somebody like Phil Heath, him and I have been working together for so long. He's had different sponsors. It was never an issue.
Sure.
Jay Cutler, same thing.
Right.
When I worked with the Jay Cutler in 2009, 2010, he was with different companies. It wasn't an issue. But now, as I'm putting more time and effort and a lot of money into my brand and expanding it both domestically and internationally, I got to really pick and choose because I hyper-focus. I hyper-focus on when I work with somebody. So that takes up a lot of time. So therefore, when a situation like Big Ramy happened, him and I have been friends for a long time, and he's worked with Chris, he's worked with George Farah, he's worked with Bader Bodai, and when the opportunity came up, it wasn't just a matter of me going out and trying to make the next Mr. Olympia. I've been blessed enough to work with a lot of really great physiques, with a lot of people with really, really good work ethic, and I've been able to, come up with some really good results. But at the end of the day, I'm also trying to develop and expand my brand. So I have to pick and choose because there's so many hours in the day. So therefore, it was nothing personal with me and Big Ramy. It was just not the right time and the right place when I'm trying to brand.
Maybe it was going to be a lot of work too, because it seems like Ramy needs a lot of. You got to be really on top of him, and that requires a lot more work. Some guys are a little bit more easy to work with. They don't require as much babysitting.
Yeah, and I can't speak for how much time and effort it would have taken for him over somebody else, but all I know is that I know how much time and effort I put into it because I don't work with a lot of people. I don't have a laundry list of athletes I work with. So what happens is I really try to, again, hyper-focus. And with the time and effort that I'm trying to put in with the brand, the brand extension, with all the different things I'm doing and around the world and doing all these things, I got to make sure that I don't take away. And I'm starting to try and take a little bit better care of myself.
I noticed. I was going to ask you that. I noticed you've been training. You're in good shape again.
I'm getting better.
You look like you've really been training a lot.
Yeah.
For a while, I know you said you were unhappy. You said you got out of shape. You gained a lot of weight.
Yes.
What made you decide? Hey, you know what? I got to really focus on myself a little bit more.
What made me decide is the fact that as my resume and reputation grew, so did my body fat. Because it was one of those things.
A lot of stress, right?
It was stress, and it was lack of priority. As you know, you got to prioritize things.
Right.
And a lot of times when you're focusing on all these other people, you don't focus on yourself. Right. You're focusing on everybody and taking care of them. And then the last person that you take care of is yourself.
That's true.
In between the stress and then running Evogen. And also my family. I've got a 5-year-old. When my son,
I don't know how you even travel as much as you do because I have kids. I stopped traveling as much.
Yeah, so now. So it's similar situation.
Yeah.
So I got to try to balance that out. And one person that I always looked up to when I was kind of coming through was also J.M. Mannion. And I would bounce a lot of ideas off of J.M. because I saw him running around the world and seeing that. So it was, so many people just don't have families and they're very unbalanced. And the people that do, we try to learn from them, right? And that's why I would always bounce things off of people that I knew who had kids in this industry.
Sure.
And talking to him, it was really trying to create balance, and I had zero balance. I would go 18-hour work days, traveling all around the world. One weekend I would be in Brazil, one weekend I would be in Europe, another week I'll be in the Philippines, and at the end of the day, I wouldn't work out, I wouldn't eat.
You're eating the worst foods, right, in the airport.
Or I wouldn't even eat.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't eat. I'd eat one meal at 1 in the morning and whatever that was available.
The worst quality food of all time.
The worst quality food, and you're, processed packaged food, and you're eating once a day, so you're eating up all your muscle.
Terrible, I know.
Yeah, so my testosterone, I had it checked once, and it was like 78.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are you on replacement now?
Well, right now I have to be because my testosterone is having problems coming back.
Do you feel a lot better?
Yeah, a lot better.
Yeah.
A lot better because at the end of the day, my test levels weren't going over 100.
Well, a lot of people
so
don't
that's
know
it.
You were a natural athlete when you competed, though, years ago, right? So
yes.
Is this the first time you've ever taken like any kind of?
Yeah, and I'm horrible at it. I would go in and actually, I use a cream, right?
Yeah.
And I'm using this cream, and then eventually I'm telling myself, well, wait a minute. I stopped using it because I would just get lazy about it.
Right.
And then I'm like, I don't want to use it. And then I'm also worried my son will crawl in the bed. And then if the creams get on there, then I don't want to take any shots. So any of those things, but all those things affect you. And when your testosterone and your estrogen levels are the same, that's fucking bad.
That's not a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing. So I'm sitting here trying to deal with the best athletes in the world, and I'm not taking care of myself.
Sure.
And so with now being able to take better care of myself, I have better focus, better sleep, I'd make better decisions for my brand, I can get back on focusing on product formulations and building out the company, and then I can turn around and do a lot more instead of stressing about the next win, because that's what it turned into a really vicious cycle.
Do you actually feel a little more at peace now that you're not working with athletes?
Yeah, I'm at peace because
you're a stress case. I know. I see you at these shows.
Yes.
You're running around like a lunatic.
Yeah. I'm like literally zoned out, haven't eaten for 3 days, haven't slept. I think at the Olympia I sleep about 10 or 12 hours in 4 days.
Yeah, that's not good, probably.
No.
Long term, it's not good.
Oh, no, it's absolutely not good. And stress is what really kills you. So building that balance was the number one thing.
I think it was a bold move for you to do that because I know it took a lot because your ego gets invested in the guys you're working with. It has to.
And that was the hard thing. And that's why the situations with some of these athletes, I've got a lot of people in the top 10, and people coming up and the amateurs that are hitting me up and say, are you available? And I'm just like, right now I don't have the time because I have to build balance.
Sure.
I got to spend time with my family.
Right.
I got to spend time with building my brand. I got to be able to spend time, with my
What are some of the challenges when you try to get your brand in other countries? A lot of people don't know. You and I both have like a very high-end product line. It's not a cheap brand. It's not a Walmart brand. It's a brand that requires education. How hard is it to educate these, at least international distributors as to understand why your brand is Mercedes and not maybe like a Honda, so to speak?
So what the most difficult thing is many manufacturers around the world sell internationally, and their standards aren't as high as ours in the United States, as you know.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is they're creating brands, or they even have, there's counterfeits to their brands, and then what they do is they come in here into places like the UAE or some of these other foreign countries, and they're not getting their products, they're not GMP regulated with good manufacturing practices, they're not going through all the processes of having these higher quality, they're amino spiking, they're doing all of these really unscrupulous...
A lot of proprietary blends that don't put the ingredients actually on the label.
Yeah, but it's not even just proprietary blends, it's literally, like, I've heard of places like India where they're putting sawdust in their weight gainer. Sawdust in their weight gainer.
That's crazy.
So, and then they want to know why their products are so much more cheaper than what we want to sell our products for, because our products are real. And then you want to understand, why is there a big difference? Why is it $10 or $15 more for a similar product? Because we have real ingredients in the products. So, and then we also go through a proper registration process We actually register the products. We go through that. That can take anywhere from a couple of months to many, many years.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're dealing with that right now across the water in Iran. My parents are both Iranian. We're registering products. Right now, they're just getting registered from 2.5 years ago.
You know, a lot of people don't realize when it comes to supplements, and we haven't really talked too much about that, but you get what you pay for. I can't emphasize that enough. If you're paying very little amount of money for something that another company is charging more for, it's probably not as good a quality. You know, you could look at this. You know, people think whey isolate is whey isolate, but it's not. There's different degrees of whey isolate.
Yeah, or what they're putting in there is they're leaving a word out: soy whey isolate. Soy. It's soy isolate.
Yeah.
And they're selling it as whey.
Right.
And then they want to know why their estrogen level is through the roof.
Or they put milk isolates in there, and it's not just all whey protein.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of different ways that people could trick you in the supplement industry. So it's important that you trust the company that you're buying from, and then you see what you're buying. If you're paying $20 for the same tub that everyone else is charging $40 for, it's probably not what you think it is, you know? And unfortunately, the supplement industry is not regulated enough where people, you know, are being checked up on a regular basis. So once again, it's about reputation. It's about who's selling you the product. You know, so remember, you know, if you're trying to maximize your gains out there, if you're using a product that's inferior, you're not going to grow as well from it. You're better off almost using food at that point, you know?
Absolutely. And what ends up happening is everybody chases, it's like what I call the chase to the bottom. Right. Everyone's chasing prices, and it's all about prices. And then people end up getting really, really bad results. And what it does is it destroys the industry, because now you have a pantry, a closet full of shitty products that don't work. And you got a great deal on them because you bought one and got 3 free, and then you want to know why you're not getting good gains. You're spending your time and effort in the gym. You're putting time on the treadmill. You're in there training for 45 minutes to an hour. You want to have products in there that are going to actually help enhance your recovery and help enhance your improvements to hit your goals. And then you get jaded and say none of these products work just because you bought some shitty products.
Right.
And then what ends up happening is the whole industry gets a really bad reputation.
Well, I'll give them a good example. Like, you know, how many people here have taken like a glucosamine supplement for your joints, right? Everyone has. And most people never finish the bottle because you go to buy it in whatever, you put 1,000, 2,000 milligrams of glucosamine into your body, and it doesn't do anything because that's not a high enough dosage of it. And, you know, people don't realize that if you don't take 4 grams of the stuff in a day, it doesn't help repair joints. And so people just get, like you said, jaded. They don't ever use a glucosamine supplement. And meanwhile, I go out there and I try to explain to people, hey, if you use my product, it has 4 grams in it in a daily dosage, and people start using it, and all of a sudden they feel joint relief. It's not that my product was better than everyone else. It's just that everyone else was selling you an ineffective dosage. So you have to educate yourself, and that's why it's important to buy supplements from people like Hany, like myself, that are actually have real science in there, that are explaining and teaching you guys why the products that we're selling are better than everything else out there. Not to say that everything else is bad, but there are companies that don't sell you, you know, the right dose stuff or the right ingredients, period. Do you find that that's a big impediment, that you have a very big education curve to people?
Yeah, I think companies that are higher end, they grow slower, but they end up growing farther and longer than the ones that just burn up. They go up and then they just kind of burn out, because what ends up happening is they put it they putting in ingredients that are just not in the product, and then people don't get gains, or they put in some kind of hormone spiking, and then they turn around and get sued or they get locked up.
Oh, yeah.
And with a company like Evogen, it's been around for 11 years.
Right.
I started with a $60 non-stick.
You started like when I did, I think Species, around the same time.
And it's been around, and it's just been growing slowly and steady, and everybody asks, why is it not bigger? Well, because I was coaching most of the time. And because coaching...
Also, though, when you have a company that requires education, it grows slower. Yeah. But I'm sure you never had a year where you lost money. You probably constantly got bigger and bigger every year, which is what you want.
Yeah, you start to grow the company, and what's really important is getting the information out there that tell people what makes it different. But again, it's a slower process.
Yeah, it's much, much harder. All right, I know you got to go. You got to get back to the booth. Final question. Will Shawn Rhoden, in your opinion, now that you're not in the contest prep game anymore, will Shawn Rhoden repeat this year as Mr. Olympia?
I think it's going to be very difficult for him too, because now the door's been opened. Because I think obviously Shawn's got some weaknesses,
right.
And so I think there's a lot of guys out there that could do it. That could
Who
go
could
out
knock
there
him off, in your opinion?
You know, I think Rolly obviously is a guy that was right up there in the mix. I think the guys like Brandon Curry look really good. They have a lot of very, good complete physiques. I think that they're William Bonac's of the world. That, he's always a threat. And I think that there's guys up there that, because of the fact of the matter is that these guys are really, really close. It could be anybody's show.
Will Kai Green come back this year? And
I don't think so. I think Kai has moved on. Now I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back, but at the same time, I think he's really focused on a lot of the things outside of just competitive bodybuilding at this point, from what I've seen. And everybody sees him on social media. He's doing so many different things.
Right.
So I think that it's. For me, it's probably a 60 or 75% chance he's not coming back. But you probably know more than I would do.
I don't know anything. I'm hoping to ask him on this stage a little later today if he's going to come back or not. And I'm sure I'll get a very wishy-washy answer from him. But that's Kai, right? He'll leave it open. Hany, thanks so much for for talking to us, and
Absolutely.
good luck with Evogen here in Dubai.
Thank you.